High school. Something, of course, everybody knows about. At some point, we will all have gone through it. Although, there is one thing that not everybody does in high school. That is being a class president. There is only ever one class president for each grade. And unless you have done that job yourself, you may not quite understand what this job consists of. It may seem pretty simple just to make some speeches here and there, be the face of your grade, and that's about it. But you'd be surprised as to how much the student class president actually does. This is the U.S. Capitol. To most people, it represents democracy, justice, and most importantly, freedom. In reality, it's the core to one of the most powerful countries in the world. At the head of this massive operation is a man we all know as the President of the United States. This position is one many look up to, especially those with their own presidential titles. This is Oba Osagali, president of the Senior Class Council at Salem High School. Unlike the President of the United States, Oba's presidential responsibilities aren't keeping tax rates down or dealing with foreign affairs. His responsibilities include planning senior activities like prom and senior safe night, which for some teenagers is just as important.
Well, I'm Oba Osagali. I'm 18 years old. I am the senior class president. Being in class council, being president of class council, I've never regretted it. I love it. It's like I've never regretted it. I love every second of it. Like every morning doing announcements and just talking to the deans and being close with everything and how Salem High is ran. I love it. At the end of sophomore year, I just worked as much as I could during my sophomore year as a representative, just so my advisors could know who I am, my class council members could know who I am, and my class could also know who I am. At the end of sophomore year, I ran for class president and I won. And then at the end of junior year, I ran unopposed and I won for the second time. Every Wednesday, I run the meetings we have as a class council, which anyone is available to go to. Every day, I start the day with doing announcements, reading the birthdays, the song. I have to be really close with our deans, our principal, and just the student body and the teachers in general, just so I know what's going on. Like my job, I just have to just know what's going on at Salem High and try to let people be aware and try to pump up school spirit.
I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great class presidents for the senior class. Oba's done a great job and he's right up there with the best of them. Oba's strengths, I find, is that he is so personable and everybody likes him. He's not just a figurehead that people say, oh, that's the class president. I think everybody feels like they can approach him, and he's just a great guy.
Like every leader, there's still a person behind the title.
I plan to go to college for biochemistry, and I am a fan of music. I make my own, and I like music a lot. Instrument-wise, I play classical, and when it comes to putting out actual music and songs, I rap. And I am going to start producing my own beats and things soon. But as of right now, I'm a vocalist, I rap. I've been rapping for the past 6 years, and I just started putting it out and songs and mixtapes and albums as of last year. Rapping is a big method I use to relieve stress, whether I put it out as in a song form or for people to hear it in general. I am constantly writing just so I can clear my mind. And whether anyone gets to listen to it or not, it's a good way for me to just clear my thoughts and just put everything I'm thinking down.
You say you'll never do this again, but now we're back in the circle. It's like I'm seeing a trend. You told me this is what you wanted, never wanted to end. I have to remind you that I ain't one of your friends. You said you love me, got a funny way of showing it. Keep asking for chances, but everyone you're blowing it. Too many tears in the cloth, no one for sewing it. But if you actually care, there's no way that I be knowing it. Bars.
I just think that I just showed how much, especially in my speech, I showed just how much I cared about our class and the student body in general. I just have a passion for school and a passion for Salem High School. We have an amazing staff, amazing student body, and we have amazing facility. And I want people to be aware of that, and I want to do whatever I can so people could be aware of that. I also just wanted a say in how our 4 years could go, and I figured if anybody else could be president, why couldn't I?
With Dean Radowitz gone, a new dean has stepped up to the plate at Salem High School. This week, a small-town girl from a little town in Maine with a passion for dance and education becomes a figurehead for one of the most innovative high schools in the state. She brings with her hopes of creating a safe and fun school environment with a greater sense of school spirit. She has her eyes set on one thing, and that one thing is kindness.
My name is Dean P. and I'm going to be the upperclassman A through K, so that includes the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town called Green, Maine, and to put in perspective, there was 3 towns I went to my high school, and my high school was only 750 kids. So, tiny town, a lot different than here. And I lived there my entire life, and after high school I went to college, down in Providence College, and started applying to schools to start working at in southern New Hampshire, and I've been in southern New Hampshire ever since.
What type of things were you interested in when you were in high school?
I was a dancer, so I danced a lot, acro, jazz, tap, ballet, point, all sorts of different things, and I did a lot of competitions in New Hampshire and Massachusetts for that. I also was very involved with student council, so I did a lot of different things with the school, trying to promote school events and dances and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What initially inspired you to go into education?
I've always kind of been I always liked math. I was a math teacher for 8 years, and so I was always not sure what to do with it. And I was actually my junior year, I had a math teacher that was awesome. She was my pre-calculus teacher, and she really motivated me to want to go into teaching and help kids understand math and kind of just in general into education, help kids be successful.
So where exactly did you work before coming to Salem High School?
So when I graduated from Providence College, I went to Campbell in Litchfield, New Hampshire. I was there my first 4 years. I taught mostly geometry and then Algebra 1. And then I went to Bedford High School, and I was there for 4 years. And I taught pre-calculus, Algebra 1, geometry, all sorts of different things over there. But I also worked on my master's while I was at Bedford High School. All sorts. Yeah. If you want any math help and you're bored, come on by.
I was going to say, when people move to administration, they tend to miss the classroom a little. So if you have questions, you can always
but I definitely would love to do math problems with somebody.
What do you believe is the best part of your job?
I like the interaction with the kids, although the discipline piece is part of the interaction. I'm also spending a lot of time with kids just in the hallways, trying to get to know them right now. Is there Adrian in here? Nice. I hear you have a birthday this weekend. There you go. You're welcome. So it's just our way of kind of meeting and celebrating and doing the whole be kind thing that the deans and I talk about. Since I don't know a lot of kids, and I'm trying to spend time in the cafeteria and things like that just to meet students, but that's why I came into education, is to work with kids. So
what was your first impression of SHS so far?
The renovations are beautiful. When I first walked in here, I couldn't believe the auditorium is amazing. I love the space. And the people have just been very welcoming, which is awesome. Geometry? Yeah, nice. My favorite. I used to teach it. I'm looking for Preston. Is there Preston? I hear you have a birthday this weekend?
Yeah.
Happy birthday. I'm your new dean. I'm dean for last name A through K. So how many of you have A through K? Nice. Awesome. So nice meeting you guys. Please, if I haven't met you yet, say hello in the cafeteria or in the hallways. I'm trying to meet as many kids as I can. All right? Thank you very much. I was a little nervous, obviously, to leave a school that I was comfortable at and to come into this role. But everyone's been very nice. The teachers, the administration, and even the students have been great. And some students have even come up and introduced themselves to me, which is awesome. So more students can keep going.
That's encouraging.
Yes.
What's one thing that you hope to accomplish in your first year here at Salem High School?
I think there's a lot of things. As a first year to the school, I just want to kind of embrace the school and get to know it. But Dean Barry, Dean Dennis, and I really are pushing, I want to work on school spirit. I know you guys have class wars, and I'm excited to see what that's like, but I don't know what else you do for those kind of things. So school spirit would be something I want to continue, along with, we're just pushing the kindness and how small things can affect the entire culture of the building. So I'm hoping to just keep working on those two things for this year, and then maybe tackle more things next year.
Well, thank you very much for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
School spirit is supposed to be an important part of a student's daily life as it helps them get through the day. But what is school spirit? Is it a tangible thing or an elusive state of mind? Salem High is a self-proclaimed school spirit haven, or is it? Does it matter?
School spirit is a positive attitude students and teachers have about their school. School spirit helps them bring different groups and students together and unites the school. For example, High School Musical indicates a great example for school spirit. The show displays the concept of students getting involved and uniting together. But in reality, do high schools actually show school spirit? Does the idea actually affect students' behavior? More specific, does the Salem High School even have enough school spirit? Here we interview Mr. Szqeda, the athletic director, who's in charge of the rules on the field and a school spirit expert.
I think that school spirit has to do a lot with kids who get involved with all facets of the building, not necessarily just athletics. I like to see kids involved with the band. I like to see kids involved with the plays. I like to see kids involved in all the clubs that we have. Quite frankly, here at Salem High, we have a lot to choose from, and I think that one of the aims for us in athletics is to get as many people in the seats as possible so people get a feel for our kids.
We're walking toward the conference room or something. It's one of the rooms in the new building or something.
Well, I think first when we start talking about school spirit and the number of students that participate in school spirit, I think those numbers, we're not exactly sure what that number is, but we can estimate that approximately 60% of our students in this building, which is about 700 plus students, that are actively involved in some sport or a club or activity after school. And I think really the impact of those as far as school spirit is concerned is tremendous. Not that the other 400 or 500 students in this building are not involved. I think it comes in different forms. I think we have students that will participate during Spirit Week. We'll have students that will show up to games. So I think though we may only have 70% of students participating in activities and really establishing school spirit, I think that number is much higher just due to the fact that we have a number of students that participate in other ways versus being a participant in a club, organization, or extracurricular.
I think we have a good level of school spirit. From a professional perspective, I think that we can always increase that. I think that if we can get some of our kids to go from one event to another, that would help us. I think that if we could get more teams to watch each other and then bring their friends and parents, that would be a great increase. I think the other piece for school spirit is that our booster club has done a super fan at every game. So if you become the super fan, you get a free T-shirt, and then you can wear that to all the games, and it gets you into, the games that cost. Does our school have school spirit? Yes, it does. But like I said before, I think it can always be increased, and I think we need to try different avenues, whether it's social media or trying to get more kids to come to different events. There's always room for improvement.
As far as the big difference of having school spirit and the effect it has on this whole entire school, I think school spirit is tremendous. I've been in buildings where school spirit has been high. I've been in buildings that school spirit has been low, and it's amazing the difference. It's night and day. We have students that will participate to a high degree in most activities, where we have other schools that I've been in where the bell rings at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever that is, and they'll leave for the day, and there's not much student life after the bell rings. So I think knowing that I've had the differences in both school spirit on both ends of that spectrum, it's important that we do have school spirit in this school, being Salem High School, because it directly has an impact on students and their behavior, their emotions coming into the building, their pride, and I think if all of those things are existent in a building, then you have a building that's safe, you have a building that's full of pride, and I think it has a direct correlation on student grades, student involvement, behavior, conduct, whatever that may be. But ultimately, school pride has an impact on building in a tremendous way, good or bad, depending on the percentage of students that want to exhibit that. I touched a little bit about the impacts of the academic piece, and I think I'd want to talk a little bit about the fact that school spirit has a direct correlation on students' academics due to a number of reasons. First, in many cases, students have to remain eligible. In the case of athletics, students need to maintain a certain academic level in order to remain eligible for their sports, as well as other procedures that we have outlined for students to participate. So I think that's one reason why academically school spirit, pride, all impacts those things. Also, I think the research really clearly states that students that are more involved in their education basically are far more successful academically. They exhibit better time management, which ultimately leads to a successful 4 years at high school.
You're in a world where you don't fit in with the rest of the crowd. To others, loud noises, such as classmates talking, don't bother them, but to you it does. And you wonder why people ask you why you make such a big deal out of the smallest of things. That's what people with Aspergers have to deal with in their daily lives. What's it like inside of the mind of people with Aspergers? Let's find out.
Asperger's is an identification on the autism spectrum, and it's something that's no longer used in the new diagnostic statistic manual, which just came out. So autism spectrum disorder is the new diagnosis, and it encompasses autistic disorder, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, and Asperger's disorder. So it's technically a spectrum disorder, which means that there's a variety of different ways it impacts a student or a child.
Sometimes I don't know how to act in certain social situations, and sometimes I just don't, and maybe I stammer at times. I just picked up on that. But it's just, sometimes I don't know how to describe Asperger's because I've just lived with it my whole life.
Other students give me dirty looks almost all the time, and it makes me feel like dirt. In class, messing up often bothers me more than it does to others. And people think that it's childish, especially when I stomp the desk and table. If I'm in a bad mood from that mistake, people think I'm trying to make them angry and laugh as I pass by them. When somebody tries to get me to talk to another student, I get nervous, mostly because I'm scared to say the wrong thing and end up with being judged.
Autistic disorder is the kids that are much more impacted. They typically have not a lot of language. They are often nonverbal, which means they can't communicate using words. You usually will see that they have something going on at a much younger age. Usually by the age of 2 is when they're diagnosed, if they have more typical autistic disorder symptoms. So those are kids that they don't develop language, and they're much more impacted by the sensory piece, the cognitive piece, and they have a harder time functioning in society independently. Kids that are pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified are usually kids that have some of those symptoms, and they will have somewhat of a language delay, but they won't be as cognitively impaired as a kid with autistic disorder. Kids with Asperger's are on the highest functioning end of the spectrum, and those are kids that do not have a language delay. So oftentimes you won't see the symptoms until they're about 6 or 8 years old, and that's when they're diagnosed.
That's something that can be kind of hard because they should get early intervention, because early intervention is huge for kids with autism. So Asperger's will impact a kid in many different ways. Probably the ways that you will see the most will be social situations, because they often have a hard time reading social cues. They usually don't know how to appropriately interact with their peers because they just don't get it. They don't understand social situations.
I can't tolerate some certain things because I just can't. I don't know what exactly I don't tolerate. Maybe sarcasm to some extent I don't have much tolerance for. Sometimes I don't care, and other times depends on the situation.
Lastly, what they don't know is that I'm very friendly and shy, and the girl who wants to be a video game designer. On top of that, I am very caring and talented, and I have feelings just like everyone else in the school. I give big thanks to all my friends because they are the reason why I'm still here today.
They won't notice body language as much. Another way that they're impacted is sensory, which is the lights being too bright or making noise, or just the feeling of their clothes being itchy, and all of these things are things that they're dealing with that you may not know about, but they're dealing with it, and it's really distracting for them, and it can be really frustrating. It can even be painful. It can impact their abilities to understand the material. So knowing whether or not they're actually being impacted by the cognitive disability side of it is really important for teachers. They should know if a kid has a difficulty with reading or writing because they have Asperger's. They can also have that. And also reading comprehension is really tough because they have a hard time with anything that's not like rote material, which is like regurgitating information is really, anything that's beyond just giving facts is tough for them.
It's one of the largest epidemics facing our society today. The addiction is social media. Our lives are controlled by the devices in our hands, the number of likes our last post got, or even how many followers we have. We spend so much time building our image online that we as a society have forgotten how to communicate face to face. But what people do not realize is that, unlike a footprint in the sand, a digital footprint cannot be erased by the waves of time.
Did you see what they posted?
How do you have so many followers?
Guys, go like my recent.
I need a caption for
Does
this
this
photo.
filter look too heavy? Wait, guys, stop. Don't move.
If I tweet this,
I need to
something
find
else.
something.
Which one should I go?
In today's world, social media plays a huge part in how our society functions, especially for high school students. According to a recent article published by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 94% of teens go online using a mobile device every day. Because social media often serves as a distraction for students, their ability to concentrate is significantly reduced by the temptation that lies within the apps such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat.
I think that students are affected by social media in a way where communication has changed. Social media is definitely a way in which people will vent or express emotions before they actually kind of take a minute to step back and think about how they're feeling. And that can certainly have some ramifications, especially if lots of people are seeing what you've posted. Another time it might come into play is when you're going for a job or a job interview. A lot of employment agencies, whether you're a senior in high school or you've graduated college or you're 35 or 40 years old and you're applying for a new job, a lot of places will be looking at social media accounts and seeing what kinds of things you post and what kind of a tone your profiles have out on the internet so that they can really get a picture of kind of who you are and if your values match the values of their company and if you're appropriate on the internet as well too. Especially when you think you're using an app or a means of messaging that's only going to one person. There's never a guarantee that it's only going to go to that one person. When you have 75 followers and you post something, someone from that 75 who has another 250 or 300 or 400 followers can repost the message that you've put out. So now you thought only 50 or 60 people might see it, but it's going to hundreds, if not thousands eventually.